Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I have the pleasure to invite friend astrologer from Australia and great astrologer Kesenya. This is not the first time we are discussing important world matters with Kesenya. Hello, Kesenya. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
Oh, Krasi, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited to look at this topic. So I'm very
Yes,
honored to be here.
yes. You were so excited telling me, oh, you don't have to stop, continue with the series on the world countries astrology. So I thought you would be the one discussing with me Australia, since you are Australian.
Yeah.
You're very familiar also with the horoscope of Australia. You gave me the, I think, rectified or at least adjusted time of birth. Ksenia, how did you get to this time of birth, which is January 1st, 1901, 1335 in Sydney?
Yes.
How did you get to this one?
Well, I actually looked at some research done by another couple of Australian astrologers who had looked into the various different times, like Australia became a colony on a certain date. Then there was another another sort of landmark decision that would have been the date, but they chose this particular date and time because it's when Australia became its own independent nation aside from it's still part of the Commonwealth, but aside from
Yeah,
England. So
Commonwealth.
yes, yes. So that was the date, 1901, January the 1st, which we've just had the anniversary of, obviously. And in Sydney, they had a signing ceremony. So the time, 1335, there's a bit of discrepancy around the time, but basically these couple of astrologers have researched and pretty much pinpointed that the signing of the document took place at 1335 or 1:35 in the afternoon. So, yeah,
I
that's
wanted this introduction because oftentimes people ask me and they say, but maybe the day is another. So this is okay. So, Ksenia, what shall we do? I suggest we look from the two perspectives. I give the word to you first.
oh,
You tell
sure.
me, yes, because you tell me what you see from tropical perspective, and maybe I'll make some notes to see if we really can harmonize the two systems, the tropical and the sidereal, to see what do you see really coming for 2025 and maybe beyond. Just tell me, please.
Sure.
If you feel
Thank
like
you.
sharing screen or not,
Yeah, I
it's
will.
okay with me.
I'll share my screen so that people who know astrology can follow
Yeah,
along, see what I'm talking about.
exactly.
But I'm actually really excited to hear your sidereal interpretation and with the Babylonian astrology that you use. I'm intrigued to see what you find as well. So this is just such an honor to be able to do this. And can I
For
just say,
me, same.
I
Yeah,
just love how we can do this and respect each other's systems and see that there's validity in what each other does, despite the systems being different for various reasons. So I just think that's lovely because there's too much argumentative behavior online around are you tropical, are you Vedic? And, most people, sorry, I'm on my bandwagon a bit here, but most people do the research one way or another to see that the system they use works. And so for me, I found tropical works and you found sidereal works for using various techniques within that system. And so it's just an honor to be able to share this with you and do this with you
same for me, Ksenia.
because I have so much respect for your knowledge and what you've done, Krasi, with the Babylonian
The same for me.
astrology.
Thank you, Ksenia. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me just a second. I'll go to this screen. So I've just used astro.com because most people can relate to the free software on astro.com and get familiar with using this particular chart style. But this is the chart of Australia. I've also got the natal charts there, the transiting chart and the progress chart are all incorporated into this. So hopefully that will help make things clear as I talk. But the one thing that's jumping out that's going to really be impactful to Australia in 2025, and it'll be the same I believe in the sidereal as well, perhaps the
Uh-huh.
Pluto transit across the midheaven at 2 degrees. That's going to be a biggie. And it's exact to the degree and minute on the 25th of the 2nd and the 17th of the 7th this month. So the 17th of July and the 25th of February. But basically, anytime Pluto's at 2 degrees this year, it's going to be transformative and it's going to be tense. And Pluto rules plutocracy. And we may see our government, because in mundane astrology, the government of the nation is often represented by the 10th house or the midheaven. And so we might see the government behaving in more plutocratic ways in Australia. Interestingly, this is very close to the degree of the grand conjunction that occurred back in sort of
In
2019,
July.
20,
Yeah.
yeah. And after that grand conjunction, pretty much on our midheaven, within 2 degrees of our midheaven, in Australia, the world saw the true colours of Australia really coming out, because if people remember around that time, we went into 3 years of severe lockdowns because of the
Yeah.
pandemic. And you know, if you look at this chart in the of Australia, you've got Saturn conjunct with the Sun in the 10th house Capricorn. Like a lot of people, when they think about Australia, well, they thought about Australia pre-COVID, they were like, oh, they're larrikins, they're fun-loving, they're easygoing, cheerful people. Well, yeah, we've got a stellium in the ninth house in Sagittarius. That's fantastic. That comes across very strongly about the Australian people. But we've got our governance is very authoritative. We are what they call a real nanny state. Everything is punitive and highly regulated and rule driven in Australia. And so I'm not exactly excited about this Pluto crossing the midheaven, which could bring about more of that sort of behavior, this authoritarian behavior that we see in the chart of Australia. So fellow Australians, beware. Practice
Yes.
resistance, I guess. Um, but in other things that are happening in 2025, we've got Jupiter transiting Pluto down here. And you know that's happening between the 2nd of April through to the 7th of April. Now, that could be very positive. I mean, Jupiter is considered to be the great benefic planet, so you would think that might be a positive experience. Often Pluto-Jupiter connections do speak to, you know, growth in prosperity and growth in abundance, but also Jupiter expands whatever it touches, and Pluto can be ruthless. So look at this Pluto. It has only difficult aspects being made to it. So we may see, yes, we might see an expansion of profitability in Australia. That's one, I guess, positive possibility. But again, we might see more plutocracy sort of in Australia, particularly as this is in Gemini, we might see sort of a lot of control of the media. I'm just looking at my notes here. There's this T-square to Uranus, Venus, and Mars that could really bode for quite a volatile time. Jupiter can expand the heaviness of this T-square that's present here. So I think this might, you know, prove difficult perhaps for trade or sales, small business, maybe the education system as well. And yeah, there can be some challenges, I think, coming with that. In fact, I have in my notes here, I think last time, oh yeah. So last time Pluto went retrograde across this point just recently, this is just before Christmas, we had the government, how shall I phrase this? Very sneakily pushed through some legislation, get my words out properly, to implement a digital ID by stealth here in Australia. So
Mm.
they pushed through when Jupiter was conjunct Pluto last time, in just before the Parliament closed for the year in 2024. Within 1 week snuck through this legislation under the guise of we have to protect our young people. Under 16s you'll need to prove that you're over 16 to be allowed to use social media. So under 16-year-olds are not allowed to use social media once this legislation comes into being. and you will have to get, what are you going to have to get to prove that you are eligible to use social media? A digital ID. So very sneaky, very underhanded Pluto, and very plutocratic again, trying to dominate and control the populace. So that was Jupiter last time. Again, Jupiter's going to be moving across this point
Mhm.
a little later this year, and we just need to be aware of this. I don't mean to be all doom and gloom when we look at at the charts of what's happening,
No,
but
no,
we have to be realistic too, and
absolutely. No,
forewarned,
definitely.
forewarned, forearmed. So, other things that are happening is the progressed moon, as just you can see up here, is about 1 month away from moving into the ninth house. And that in progressed astrology, the progressed moon spends 2.5 to 3 years in any given sign. So this could actually be good. The progressed moon is going to really stir up our stellium in the auspicious ninth house. But it could be a wild 2.5 to 3 years as well, because she's going to be crossing the North Node, and all these planets in this stellium. Generally, the moon in mundane astrology relates to the masses and the people, and the ninth house is a house of blessing. So it could be good. I'm a little uncertain about this though, because look at the opposition from Pluto and a square from Mars to
Yes,
both
but it
planets.
could be good because this could be another level of awakening. Because this is not to underestimate. It became cliche, awakening, awakening. But I
Yes.
believe this is not to underestimate.
That's so true. And we have had a lot of people, as has the whole world, waking up in the last, well, particularly the last 3 years. And of course, during that time, the progressed moon's been in the eighth house in whole sign astrology. So opposite its natal position. So we've had this culminating effect for the masses, culminate
Yes.
a full moon effect, if you like, a fruition effect in attitude and outlook. Because prior to this legislation that I mentioned before, we had probably, gosh, it must have been about 2 months of activism by a lot of the Australian people trying to prevent another piece of legislation going through called the Misinformation and Disinformation Bill. That was, as the name suggests, a piece of legislation that they wanted to implement to prosecute anybody who posted something that the government didn't agree with. Now, that's very, communist, if you like, or plutocratic.
This is unbelievable. Yes,
Yeah, it is
unbelievable.
unbelievable. I can't, I'm flabbergasted that they're even attempting these
No.
things. But the public really pushed back on that. And the bill did not get up, and by the skin of its teeth, did not get through. So that to me shows evidence of this moon, progressed moon opposition natal moon, where the people have woken up to a level anyhow. And we've had a culmination of awareness and awakening. We need more. We always need more, and that includes me as well. There's many things I need to wake up to as well. But yeah, but fortunately, a shift of energy. I mean, progressed moon moving out of the intensity of Scorpio and into a much lighter Sagittarian energy could be very like sigh of relief breath for the Australian people. We'll see.
Yes. Yeah.
Saturn, Saturn in, oh, not in 2025, but Saturn will be moving into Australia's first house. As you can see, our ascendant degree is at the anaretic degree of Aries. Lots of fun with that.
Hmm.
But uh, Saturn moving into the first house might bring a lot of challenges and restrictions. Sometimes Saturn in the first house, by transit in a mundane astrology chart, can bring epidemics, or it could prove difficult. And I was doing a lot of research on this in mundane astrology. Saturn transiting the first house can sometimes bring difficulty for the government to implement its legislative measures. And, they haven't yet started to implement that social, what do they call it? The credit social digital ID. They haven't started implementing that legislation yet because everyone's been on Christmas holidays and what have you.
Hmm.
But the idea of Saturn being in the first house, making it hard for those legislative measures to be implemented, actually gives me a lot of hope and
Hope.
positivity. Yeah, even though like Saturn's not very well dignified in Aries, that could actually be in Australia's favor. Like Saturn
It
is
can be.
Yeah, Saturn is the government, the rules, the legislation, and when Saturn's not strong, it's harder to get that legislation implemented. So fingers crossed that might
But they are very sneaky, Ksenia, like you started with this, just to remind you, they are very
mm,
sneaky because you have invisible Saturn. And in Sagittarius, these people always use sneaky methods to implement whatever they have in mind.
mm, mm. Yep, that's so true in Australia. We've got Pluto in the third house, and our media. I mean, Rupert Murdoch's Australian, say no more. But they're so underhanded, and how shall we put this? The the Australian people seem to be very gullible. Like the kind of rubbish they put out in the media that people just lap up is astounding to me. But I don't mean
You
to
know,
bash
I think
my Australian
uh,
counterparts, but.
yes, but this is a trine Mars Saturn because Mars rules the ascendant, which are the people. And
Mm.
instead of people really opposing Saturn, the regulations and the governments, people trying this. They support this blindly.
Yep, exactly, exactly. Well, it's going to be very interesting. And on that topic, we've got down here Uranus, who's been causing all sorts of a roller coaster ride with our economy for the last 7 years. I mean, you can't put people into lockdown for 3 years and expect the economy to survive. So our economies are quite um, struggling at the moment. So many restaurants shut and things operating at half the level they were before the lockdowns and what have you. It's hard, but and small businesses struggling. But so Uranus has caused a lot of upheaval in this area in our finances. But he's about to move into this year in 2025 into the third house. So we're going to start seeing some changes over the next 7 years, or 7 or 8 years actually, with transport, with communication systems. But I'm actually looking forward to an overhaul of our education system that Uranus might bring here as well. I think that could be actually very positive, sort of liberating, if you like, our education system, which is very much a system, as many Commonwealth countries have an education system that's been designed to create factory workers and not people who think for themselves, the obedient,
Exactly.
do as you're told, follow the rules kind of mentality. And here comes Uranus into our education system that is going to encourage people and inspire people, I think, to think for themselves, think outside the box, think originally. So I think this could be positive for Australia in some senses. I
Mhm.
mean, Uranus is also revolution. There could be revolution by social media that occurs while Uranus is in the third house as well. There could even be an overhaul of our communication systems. That could be positive, I guess, as well, and our media, could go through a bit of an overhaul. I think it needs it, but depends what direction that overhaul, that revolution happens in, whether that's going to benefit the Australian people. Jupiter's going to be moving into exaltation in the tropical system this year,
Mhm.
and in the fourth house. So this could be really good for Australia's agriculture and mining. Also, the fourth house in mundane astrology rules the opposition party. So not the government, but the opposition. And so it could
Yep.
be very, very interesting where our opposition party might be given a bit of an edge because of Jupiter being in the fourth house this year. And we've actually already seen that starting to happen where there's been a lot of leadership tumbles over the Christmas, New Year break, particularly in the state that I live in, Victoria. So, this by some people will be seen as being good, but hey, Krasi, you and I know
Mhm.
both political parties are just two wings of the same bird doing the same thing. So,
Same.
yep, we might observe changes in all that sort of stuff in the opposition, but is it really going to make a difference to, what's going on, what we're not happy with, what changes are happening in society that we don't like seeing? I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference, but um,
No.
okay, so Pluto, I've got all these notes here, so thank you for bearing with me. Pluto
Yeah, yeah.
Pluto is going to obviously be in our 11th house for 20 years. And we need to be careful when Pluto is here, I think, to be very conscious and aware of what international friendships and allies Australia makes. I mean, sometimes that's seen through the seventh house in a mundane chart, but it can also be seen through the 11th house. And also the legislation that's created, we've got to be conscious, my fellow Australians and fellow people in the world, of our politicians creating legislation that is just designed to benefit the plutocrats. And here for Australia, this is very key, especially when Pluto crosses the midheaven as well. Something that I think is to be watched, and to be of concern is Neptune moving into the first house as well. So we've got all these changes this year, change of energy, change of direction, with all the planets changing signs in the tropical system. But Neptune moving into the first house Neptune's a hard one to define, really. He's such a slippery character, and can be really, really positive. It can be really, really negative as well. So in the negative, I mean, Neptune is to deceive, to pull the wool over people's eyes, and the people of the nation are seen, as we know, from the ascendant sign and also from the moon. So Neptune being in the first house of the people means the people on the shadow side of Neptune could be deceived or have a lack of clarity around what's going on and something that's happening to them. But in the positive, look, it could mean that the people, the masses, become more spiritual or focused on their psychological health. And it's just so interesting to me. The last month I've been talking to a lot of friends and stuff as we catch up over Christmas and New Year. Everyone I talk to wants to study psychology and become a psychologist or a counselor. It just seems to be very strong in Australia at the moment because there's a big need. Krasi, so many young people really were, and perhaps still are in many cases, suffering with a lot of mental health issues after being unable to go to school for 3 years, pretty much locked in their bedrooms for 3 years. And it's been traumatizing, especially at that key age, that teenage age, um, like my kids were, but also young children as well. My kids are
Yeah.
teenagers; they couldn't socialize, and the teenage years are just so essential for connecting with your
Yes.
peers,
They
and
just missed it.
they missed it. Finding their tribe,
Yeah,
finding that sense of belonging was completely off the table for them. I mean, my
I know.
sons played computer games and connected with their mates on computer games, but it's not quite the same
No,
as
not
in
at all.
person. Yeah. Anyway, so yes, we might be more focused on psychological health while Neptune's in the first house here. Also, in the positive, Neptune in the first house, the people might enjoy maybe more rest and relaxation, maybe more holidays. Or flip side to the shadow side of Neptune, we could see the people becoming more isolated from the rest of the world. I mean, Australia is very cut off from the rest of the world. It's an island. So, and I felt this during the pandemic where, you know, you couldn't even escape in any way, shape, or form because we're an island. So an island's wonderful for when everything's going to pieces everywhere else and you're safe on your little island. But when your island is going through massive upheaval, then there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to get away. You're stuck. So island prison. But Neptune could mean either of those directions, positive or negative, and it may be dependent on a person's chart how they experience that.
Oh, yeah. I
Mm,
believe so. Yeah.
yeah. So we're also going to have the Saturn Neptune conjunction in our first house. Now it's obviously not going to be at our rising degree, but it's in the first house. When Saturn and Neptune, here they are in Pisces at the moment, but they're going to meet up here at 0 degrees of Aries, our first house in whole sign astrology. So we do need to be aware in Australia of any attempts to implement the Saturn Neptune theme that everybody knows about is communism. And so we need to be, any kind of controlling agenda, because Neptune is ideals and Saturn is authoritarianism, and sort of communist ideals may be quite worthy on paper, but in reality, they actually, people are not that pure of heart to be able to pull off those ideals in reality. So we have to be very careful about that as Australians, especially Saturn Neptune conjunction in our first house with Pluto on the midheaven at the same time, around the same time. It's that's pretty hefty, pretty strong themes of control and authoritarianism that we need to be very conscious of as a people. Like I said, I don't want to be all doom and gloom,
No.
there are many people, and I'll probably talk about this myself on my channel when we have the Saturn Neptune conjunction, but there were a number of people who were real movers and shakers who changed the world for the better, who were born with Saturn Neptune conjunction in their charts. And it's a lot of the reason behind some serious up-leveling that happened in society. So it's my prayer that that's more of what happens with this combination, that this is the energy, the high vibrational version of Neptune-Saturn conjunction that prevails. So, yeah, and this year in 2025, we're going to have the nodes here, or the North Node, particularly in the 12th house. So we need to be conscious of sort of underhanded, again, behind the scenes activity that happens in political scenes with the 12th house. I mean, 12th house is very much what's going on that we don't know about. Secret enemies, secret societies, and that kind of thing. So I feel like I've just dragged everyone through the mud because it's pretty heavy duty what's going on. I mean, there's some positive stuff. Jupiter in the fourth house could be great. Uranus perhaps leaving the second house and helping our economy settle down when he goes, and moving into the third house to revolutionize that. That could be positive. Progress Moon in the ninth house. There's lots of positives there, but we do need to be very awake and very conscious about some of the other things that are appearing here in the tropical chart, I feel. Do you have anything now that I've talked everyone's ear off?
Absolutely, I agree with you. No, Ksenia, everything you said is I absolutely agree with you. I just want to mention two, three things in the description of the chart, because you remember when before we just mentioned to each other, we said always astrologers make the charts.
Mm.
It always, it seems that this is just an event which occurred so from nowhere. No, they plan the events of the creation of the astrological charts of countries. Astrologers, I'll tell you why. Now, when I discussed the horoscope of Europe, I was very disappointed to see that the moon has no course. The moon was void of course.
Ah.
The moon always represents the people in the mundane astrology, always the people, the nation. And
Mm.
when the moon is weak, the people are weak. The people have no word, they are just weak.
Mm.
Guess what? The sidereal version of this chart, the moon has no course. The
Can
Australian moon,
I'll stop share and you can share your screen?
we can do that. We can do that. Later, you can share again if you want.
Yeah, there you go. So we have a void of course moon as well.
Can you imagine? Yes, what a coincidence. The European horoscope, the creation, the Maastricht Treaty, moon void, of course, and Australia, the moon is also void, of course. This is very disappointing because the moon represents the people. And in NATO horoscope, with the NATO charts, people with void, of course, moon always need to apply more willpower, to do more action in order to achieve anything. They usually have this connection with mothers. This is the roots. People in Australia, in Europe, easily are disconnected from their roots, family tree. The real values, they can disconnect them easily from the real values.
Yeah.
This is why when I see moon void, of course, also in NATO chart, I say to people, you need to do something. You can, but
Yeah.
if you know, see, that's the key. On the other hand, also something which is also very tricky. On the ascendant, this is the degree where you have the two fishes tied in the in the
In
in
this
the zodiacal
sidereal.
sign of Aries. Still, you have the fishes, the two Pisces,
Yeah.
and they have this node. you know. What is not? You're tight. Your hands are tight.
Of course. Yeah, that's exactly it. Years ago, back in I think it was 1980s, they held a referendum. No, it was early 90s, held a referendum to break away from the Commonwealth and become our own independent nation. And not enough people voted for that to happen. And it would have made such a difference. We would have had a brand new chart. We would have had independence from the mother country, and been able to sort of develop our country along lines that we want as a people. But no, we're still beholden to City of London in many cases.
Your hands are tied in a
Mm-hmm.
knot.
That's it.
With this note, because this is just, you imagine what above, so below. If you have a note on your ascendant axis,
Mm,
how far you can go with this,
yeah.
unless people know. Unless people know. This is why nothing is, yes, we will not be sugarcoating the situation, no, but this can serve for further awakening, because when people know how their hands are tied, um, they will not let this continue. This is very important. Um, of course, exactly what you said with this, with the placement of Saturn, I absolutely agree with you. I just adding 2 3 points. One positive thing I want to say: ascendant ruler Mars. The first chart I was, when we were not recording, I had it wrong. I fixed it because of the timing. But the first house ruler Mars is in the fifth house, and this is the, or maybe this is the house of the good fortune. So
Mm,
this is luck. People will always have luck, pure luck, divine God blessing. So this is the good thing. Ascendant ruler in the fifth house, but without doing something, only sitting passively and allowing, the events just to flow.
yes. Yes. And I mean,
They will,
the moon is exalted in Taurus. So the people are very Taurus-like.
and they're smart, but
Mm,
just they're smart. But the moon is, I think, with Ketu in the tropical. I don't see it well. Now the Ketu is in the second house. Yes, people are smart, but manipulative because of this
yeah.
placement of,
Mm,
of Saturn. And
yes. And yeah, that's interesting, that trine between Mars and the moon too there as well with the sun.
yes, yes, because
Yeah.
Mars is ruling the ascendant, the
Mm,
people, and Mars is trining. This is
mm,
supporting the government, and also you see Jupiter is disappearing. Yes, Jupiter is strong in Sagittarius. This is wonderful, but Jupiter disappeared. How come they made it up this way, Ksenia? Tell me. One day before they announced the creation of the nation, or whatever they called this event, Jupiter disappeared. Jupiter is the
one,
morals.
one day
The-
before.
One day before, and
Oh,
Jupiter is the nation, not the nation. Sorry, Jupiter are the gurus. These are your teachers. These are our spiritual leaders. They are not there.
we don't have
You
any. We don't have
No,
any
you don't
spiritual
have.
leaders in
No,
Australia.
because
No.
exactly because Jupiter disappeared. Jupiter is also morals.
Mm,
This is, and with Saturn, this is lack of morals, obviously, of the ruling, whatever you want to call them, the
mm-hmm,
rulers. So
mm-hmm.
this is one thing. On the other hand, Australia is not lacking finances because Jupiter, Mercury, Saturn, Sun conjunction. This is very potent in terms of making money. Um, so financially, no, this is not weak, but is lacking the spiritual gurus which can awaken. This could be the priest, this could be the pope, this could be just a spiritual teacher, this could be astrologer.
Mm, mm,
People who will awaken the others, the nation. This is
mm.
lacking,
Yeah.
because of the invisible.
So do you
These are
think,
just
Krasi, that the progressed moon moving into that realm of the chart might actually help that at all?
yes, 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 yes. No, no, no.
Mm,
I think so, but because we always depart from the natal placement of the moon, and when we know that the moon has no course, at least in from sidereal perspective, this would say that people should not be passive. They should really do something or speak or awaken others. I don't say that you have to go to war and or create a revolution, because the ones that create the revolution always die. I don't say go and die. I say awaken people around you. You know, do your own part. It's already enough to have your own eyes open, you know?
Mm,
This
mm.
is already something, because energetically is already big
Yeah,
deal
yeah,
that you are awake, you know?
yeah, absolutely.
Awaken your family, awaken your children, awaken your friends. Slowly, 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 this energy is already in the air and it's not going to be lost. This is energy.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Did you have the sidereal chart, and is it like,
Ah,
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Sharing, you mean?
yes, share that. I'll stop the share because I would love to see the
I will
sidereal
show
chart
you.
and the
Mhm.
interpretation because I'm sure it has similar themes happening in it, but for different reasons with different techniques.
Yes, yes. Oh, Kesenya, how to share? 1 second. Um, it doesn't let me share. Oh, it doesn't let me share because you're the host.
Oh, I thought I changed that. It should let you share now.
All right, I'm sharing. I cannot share. No, I cannot share.
Okay.
Um, if you want, pause the recording. At least I find
Yeah,
how to
let's do
share.
that. Let's do that.
So you see,
I
all
love
right.
this software, Krasi. Is this Roman Kolov software?
I use this software only to illustrate. I don't use it because it's full with mistakes and it and faults. And as you see, before we started recording, I got the wrong chart with it.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
use it to illustrate because this is quite good for illustration, but I wouldn't recommend it otherwise, really. But it has a beautiful picture and has nicely the zodiac
Yes.
around, so it's good to illustrate. But to use for predictive purposes, it's not really very good.
Okay.
Um, so what I wanted to tell you, see, this is you mentioned the most important, I believe, aspect of the year, which is Neptune Saturn conjunction. And when you research, you see Russian Revolution, Berlin Wall, a major, major revolutionary events took place when this conjunction was on the sky. It is happening in July, 12th, 13th of July, and it will be valid for the whole month of July. A revolutionary where in the chart of Australia on the 12th house. When we know that Saturn is a little bit tricky, Jupiter is strong. Neptune, we cannot really say much about Neptune because he's peregrine in Gemini, doesn't have specific dignities. That's why we can say exactly what you said. Depends on people's natal horoscopes. It's quite difficult really to say how Neptune will play, but he's strong enough in Pisces. So they meet here in Pisces in the 7th degree. What you have in the 7th degree ascendant? What you have in the 7th degree? You have Syzygy point, you have very near is Mercury, but you have Rahu Ketu in the 7th degree. Rahu Ketu 7th degree, ascendant axis 7th degree, and then this conjunction takes place in the 7th degree. This would say automatically ascendant will be influenced. These are the people. Karmic events will play out because Rahu Ketu are also sextiled, by this situation and also in the 7th degree. Therefore, this will be very impactful. Very impactful. How? 12th house in mundane astrology, obviously, like in the natal horoscopes, is the health. Health as health services of the country. I believe this will be a revolutionary change there. There will be, this could mean health crisis too. Health crisis. Another health story. They eventually may come up, or this will be big health crisis and then change in the health system, I think, to tell you.
Interesting.
Um, could be. Also, 12th house is about financial losses. Financial losses, um, whether the Saturn is related to finances, yes, also, because Saturn is ruling 11th house. These are gains. This is the if you want also the image, the reputation, of the country. So this could also deepen the financial crisis.
Mm.
This could. Uh, Refugees are also under the 12th house. You could also get your share there, in the refugees. Unfortunately, very unfortunately. But in general, um, the fact that still Venus, even though not powerful enough in Scorpio, is trining, you know, there is this belief in the ancient astrology, which I like so much, gives me always some dose of comfort, is when a good planet is watching, the evil will be destroyed. So it will be minimized at least because Venus is helpful, not helpful enough, Kesenia, because she's in Scorpio, but still Venus is Venus. So if we're speaking about financial crisis, it may not be major because she's also related to the 12th, 8 houses situation, money, but it may have impact on the finances of the country,
Mhm.
and this may also mean major situation related to the health industry, the health. Yeah, you can call it business and industry
Yeah,
because it
it
is
is a
so.
business. Yeah.
It is. It is. I have the belief. This is based on what I see, not only astrology, but also, of course, astrology. People were so fast awakening in relation to health. We people are so disappointed
Yeah.
after the pandemic from the health business that they really opt for totally different ways, natural ways of healing, healing with tests with technology, healing with herbs, healing with
Mm.
homeopathy, name it. But they avoid using the healthcare business as
I
much
agree.
as they can. You see
Yeah.
this everywhere.
Yeah.
I believe this will be this is like the root, and it will grow tremendously after this conjunction.
Mm.
Very much. There will be some health matter for sure, because Neptune and the 12th house are very strong together, you
Mm.
know.
Mhm.
They might do another deception, but it's not gonna work for long because Neptune is not malefic in Pisces.
Mm. Yes. Yeah. Good. Good. And everybody I talk to is like they wouldn't want to try that again in Australia
I
because
believe
we
would
knew
be.
it wrecked the country last time and people are like never again. So, yeah. Interesting.
People are like never again, but they can manipulate them somehow again, because you see Mars Saturn trine, and Mars is ruling the ascendant.
Mm.
This is only supporting the government unless people really really understand this, and awaken and
Mm.
understand their own power, because this is what, imagine, why would they create horoscope which is weakening the person, the common person in a country, because they're afraid from the people.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, that's why they start so many wars and what have you. They don't want masses of
Yes,
working class people that could rise
yes,
up against them. Yeah.
yes, exactly. This is why the situation is not so bad unless people really do something. I don't say go and create revolution and die. No, no, this is naive. But I say, research. Don't trust us. Research. Get your own information is everywhere. We
Yes.
live in amazing time, like never ever before. This never happened on the planet to to get such amazing access to information
Mhm, mhm. Yes.
and knowledge, and even this never happened. I am sure never.
It's a powerful time because of that.
Amazing time.
I also
Amazing time.
in the tropical Jupiter's transiting after June, transiting through the fourth house, and I think community is going to hold us strong. Like if you've got a community of like-minded people who can support you, somebody's got chickens in their backyard and they're willing to, trade some eggs for some cucumbers that you've grown, or a trade or a skill that you have, and it's through that sort of bonding community that we can perhaps resist, I think, and Jupiter will help that to be
Very.
strengthened, I
I
think.
thank you for reminding me about this. Very good that you said it, because you mentioned this. We will be having, you have in your Australian chart Pluto, Neptune, Saturn sextile, and then sextile to Uranus in Taurus. And at the time in July, this sextile is almost precise
Yeah.
happening between. And this could be very good in terms of resisting, but resisting not with revolution, resisting like you. I'm very, certain in my own will, and also, we this massive destruction of people's farms. This is happening in Australia too,
Yes.
because Uranus now he's backwards on your ascendant. He's now with the moon. He's
Mm.
now, as we speak, I think Uranus is in the vicinity of the moon.
Yes.
In April, I think 7th, 8th of April, he's entering again Sidereal Taurus, and they will try again to kill more animals. This is
Mm.
happening everywhere. They this what hurts me really, because how I see how without any reason they are killing healthy animals. This is
Absolutely. It's so difficult to get eggs at the mainstream supermarkets now. You've got to go to the smaller supermarkets will have them. The farmers markets and things. That's where you go if you want eggs. I mean, eggs are a staple, but they've contrived some BS to take eggs off the market. They're just not there. And so every time I go to the supermarket to get eggs, then they're never there. So I need to shop elsewhere, obviously. But but not only that, like I know, like I adore Europe because they have standards with their food that we controlled countries in the West don't have. For example, we've just had this, I always say it wrong, Boava, I think, injection that they're giving to cattle, that is like it contaminate. If you get it on you while you're injecting your cattle with it, it could make you infertile. It's such a
oh
dangerous chemical. And they're injecting this into the cattle that we eat, that we get dairy from. So, this is again that same illustration that you've given about the food. And just so people know, do your research. There's plenty of information out there about which brands to buy that will not touch the stuff. And organic milk, obviously, is preferable. So that
yes, they
this
don't kill all the animals.
yeah,
you
but
know
the absurdness of this injection,
Absurd.
it's to
Same, same.
stop cows farting. I
Yeah,
mean, is that
yeah,
even
yes.
an issue?
Imagine,
Like, it's ridiculous.
imagine,
They must think we are
imagine.
absolutely stupid to think that that is justifiable in any sense of the word when you've got other countries polluting, the world left, right, and centre with no restraint. Do you really think that stopping Australian cows from farting is going to make any difference at all to this climate hoax that you're?
This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous, but this is test for our intelligence, if you
Mm,
want. This is test. You say in Europe it's not the same. It is the same. You cannot touch anything in the supermarket anymore.
mm,
Everything is poisoned. You
mm.
cannot, and I mean literally. They have these farms for ants and whatever to take the
Oh,
protein. And this is in the they put it in almost every product. I
yeah.
personally don't shop from supermarkets anymore. It's
Yes.
not possible.
No, well, they've done studies on those Bill Gates and his lovely insects in food, and it causes parasites. And interestingly, the
Yes.
north nodes in tropical astrology is just going into Pisces and the south node into Virgo. This axis is indicative of parasite problems. If you've got it
See,
in your natal chart, you need to double check what's your diet, what's your digestion, because you are more susceptible to parasites. So
wonderful.
hello, this is exactly what they play along with the negative side of astrology and try to use it for evil, like a weapon.
No, 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 no. People are awakening because the law of physics is that every action has equal. How you would phrase it? Equal.
Equal and
Um,
opposite reaction. Is that?
Absolutely. So, so this is physics law. They cannot go with this forever. And yes, what can we say? More, I don't know, Ksenia.
Well, What I can say is that in 2019, when I had the privilege of being in Bulgaria and Romania,
Oh,
the best food I've ever eaten. I've never eaten tomatoes like it. Poor Dave, my husband, he is all about that, about how good the tomatoes were, and nowhere else were they as nice as what I've had in Eastern Europe. So, you have well, I found that you have amazing food, and I do see news sometimes about certain countries in Europe. Particularly Italy, sort of blocking any change, significantly big changes to their food industry because they're renowned for it. They need to protect it from these things.
yes, yes, yes. And you notice because every action has equal anti-action. How you say it? The how people now every speak about the anti-parasitic treatments.
Mm.
So, so just people research, make your own conclusions. I'm glad that we really share this knowledge so that more and more people know how to protect themselves, use more herbs. Because the beautiful thing of Uranus in Taurus, and on the axis of Taurus Scorpio, is natural sciences, connection with nature, agriculture, because Uranus may give the negative um, aspects of his energy, which could be, destruction of farming animals, very sadly, a change of the financial systems, unfortunately, but also can give desires to people to farm, to grow their own food, so this, and also this basic style, which is formed between the three trans-Saturnian planets, Neptune, is exactly that. And
Yes.
it is generational. It is for the whole planet, not only for Australia. It is for the whole planet, and it could have very positive effect on further awakening, further connection with nature.
Yes, and certainly during those difficult first few years of the 2020s, so many people in Australia were just leaving the city and that, sorry, I got hair in my face, leaving the cities and going out and establishing their own alternative lifestyle. And to my mind, that's fantastic, but you've also got to connect in
Yes.
with other people that are doing that because you can't be a loner in these times. You need to have support during this change of dynamic in 2025 and 2026 as well.
No, no, exactly. Well, maybe we conclude here. Thank you so much, Ksenia. This was really wonderful. Wonderful. I like the harmony we had with the two ways of looking at the horoscope of Australia. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, please send us comments, and we'll be
It's an
certainly reading them.
absolute privilege, Krasi. Thank you so much. And I hope we haven't delivered too much doom and gloom, but just know, everybody who's watching, this is a big pivotal year of change. And if we act with consciousness and awareness about what's going on, we can resist where we need to, we can empower ourselves where we need to, and we can rise above the we keep using the term they. Hopefully someday we'll be able to name who they are. We know who they are, but it doesn't do us any good to name them online, does it? Um, we can rise above what they are trying to accomplish here. We are in the Pluto in Aquarius season, according to tropical astrology. It's a time of big change and big, like I've heard you say, sorry to just go off on a tangent, but I heard you say recently in one of your wonderful videos, Krasi, that Pluto in Aquarius is about community change
Ah, yeah.
and so again I come back to that, we're going to see massive change in community that is for the good of everybody, not just for the technocrats and hierarchies in the long run. So
Yes.
stay strong, people, resist where necessary, and we can
Yes,
all
silently even. Just
together.
do your thing without listening. Because one small thing, just and then we conclude. The midheaven in Australia is in the Jaws, in the Mount of Capricorn, and this is 10th house, the government, so they can speak and speak and speak. shows, speech. They speak and speak. So they blind everyone with the speech.
Oh, yeah, they do. That is so true. Oh, you've summed up our politicians entirely. But the thing is that
Just don't use your televisions anymore. I don't.
that's it. That's the essence. Don't listen to them. Just turn it
No,
off. Don't listen to
no,
the politicians
I don't.
because if you actually pay attention to the words coming out their mouth, it's pretty much on a par with another person who was spitting out a lot of word salad recently. So, and having said that, I need to quantify the fact that I am not political either way with either party.
No,
Like I said, they're both wings of the same bird and out to accomplish the same agenda. So please don't judge me for what I've just said.
no, no, you're very right. Okay, thank
Thank
you
you
so
for
much.
having me, Krasi.
We're closing.